1913.
1913, and I was 13 years old in October. I was 12 years old when we come over here.
Yeah. Sir, what's your full name?
Philip Schaefer, S-C-H-A-E-F-E-R.
F-E-R. Okay, today is December 13th, 1984. This is Joe Todd, an interview with Mr. Philip Schaefer. Sir, where were you born?
In Russia, Siberia, just the place where we left there, where my folks went there. See, Russia was given each one of them.
Okay, what's the name of the town?
Oh, I can't think of that town anymore. It was just a little town. About 40 people lived there. See, Russia they had a lot of land, and a lot of German people went in there, and they gave each boy so many acres of land.
And when is your birthday?
October.
What
1900. The 7th.
7th of October, 1900.
1900, yeah.
Okay. Who was your father?
John Schaefer.
And your mother?
Magdalena.
And what was her maiden name?
Hildebrand.
Hildebrand. What did your father do for a living?
Farmer, that's all he done, yeah. That's what he was when we left out there.
Yeah. Well, tell me some memories you have of Russia.
Well, some people say Russia it's so bad. I've heard some of them talk about it, and all kinds of things, you know, that Russia is so bad now. Well, listen, I'll tell you, Russia was just as good as the United States ever was. We lived there 13 years, 12 years. And my dad, he farmed. He put out wheat. Anything they put in out, there was only about, like Canada, 2 months, at the most 3 months summer. But everything matured. If you put out wheat, it matured. If you put out oats or barley, put out watermelons, put out corn, all that stuff would mature. The wheat, take about, it was sowed around 1st of June. And that was sowed around 1st of June, and then in 2 months, it was cut already. Just 2 months, that's all it's taken for that to mature.
Can you describe the town that you lived in?
No, I can't remember that town. That's where it comes in, and it's right down, way down in Russia. It got as low as 50 below zero where we lived.
Were you near Vladivostok in that area?
Yeah, somewhere along in there. I don't know just the name of it. I knew the name. Hanukkah, I think what they called it.
Now, where was your father born?
He was born in Russia.
What part?
He was more in the eastern part.
Eastern part?
Yeah. I don't know where he come from out
there. Now, Mr. Triber said that your father knew his father?
Yeah. Well, maybe they did.
Oh, okay.
See, when Dad got married, they went into Russia. They're going to get some land there, you see. And whatever they get, why, it wouldn't cost them nothing, just so they settled. Well, they went in there. And they settled down. There was no house there or nothing. You had to do everything, and it was in the winter time and the fall of the year, or towards spring.
Yeah. When did they move to Siberia? What year?
That was 1913. Or go back to, that's 1900. That's when I was born.
Okay, is that when they moved to Siberia?
That's when they moved to Siberia, yeah.
Okay.
See, he got married, and then they went to Siberia, and his folks went there too. See, he was still single. But then when he got this girl here, well, he got married. They lived, it was in the southern part. And from there, they went to Russia, to Siberia, where it was cold, just like it is in places in Canada. You know, it gets awful cold up there.
Tell me what you remember about life in Russia.
Well, the life in Russia is just as good as anywhere. I've been all over the United States and part of Russia. And there's one place like anything else. That was just before the First World War started. We come over here. See the way we come over here in 13, and I think in 14, somewhere along in there, 15, First World War started.
Yeah, 1914.
Yeah, that's when it started.
Did your father ever serve in the Russian army?
No.
Okay, why were the Germans in Russia?
Well, in Russia there was a lot of land, and then he went to church. He attended to church quite a bit, and he wanted to come over here because he had some brothers over here. Two of them, they come over here.
Oh, that's why he came to this country.
Yeah. That 3 years before he come here.
Okay.
See, and then we come over here. Well, we landed at Canada, and from there we went to North Milwaukee.
Can you tell me? Okay, now you're of German descent, right?
Yeah.
Why were there Germans in Russia?
Well, you know, it's just like it is in the United States. How many different kinds of people have we got, and how many different languages? Mm-hmm. And there, the Russian, they didn't want to work, and so they told them if they'd come over there and settle that country, they'd give them 3 acres of land for each boy they had, you see. Well, my dad didn't have any kiddos yet, just one. I was the first one born there in the same year. So he got his land, and he settled down there, and he was well-to-do when he left there.
How big was the farm in Siberia?
Oh, maybe 15, 20 acres, something like that. Maybe 30 at the most. Never was any bigger. Just a few acres of wheat, and your wheat come up the size of this table here, and it was cut, and it was thrashed, and it was thrashed with the horses out on the ground, you know.
You have the same equipment we had over here?
Huh? Yeah.
Same.
Yeah, well, just like when we left there was a first combine come in there. Thrashing machine. Not a combine, but a thrashing machine. It was power taken. See, it was driven by, let's see, I think about 8 horses, something like that. And then there was a drive shaft went to the machine, and that to the cylinder, and then there was belts, and that went to the cylinder. And that's where they thrashed the wheat. That was one of our neighbors there. Mm-hmm. I know I was over there when they thrashed. We had ours thrashed already, and he had so much wheat, he couldn't get it all done in the fall of the year. So in the spring, when they thawed out, the wheat was all stacked at home. In the fall, and then after that, they thrashed it all, and there was in place to have a blower on there, they had a carrier on there, like the thrashing machines used to have here. They just carried the straw out there, and there was 2 men out there. They was stacking it out there. And that's the way they put the straw away there. But as far as blowers or anything like that, I never seen anything like that over there, till we got them over here in the 13, I worked for a fellow, and he had a thrashing machine, he had a blower on there, and everything was in the barn. We pulled the machine in the barn, had a stationary engine. There wasn't no engine to move the machine or anything. You had to pull it around with horses. So I got a job there, and I was pitching the bundles out of the loft for 50 cents a day. Some people say, well, it's so bad in Russia. It was maybe bad. But I says, I was through this country for quite a while. I grew up here, and I went to school. And I got an awful good German school.
Yep. What do you remember best or most about Russia?
Well, I'll tell you, to remember most about Russia, when we thrashed our wheat in the fall, we had a 3-day journey with horses and wagon to haul the wheat to water, you see. There's a ship sitting there and waiting. Well, when we come so far one day, and then the next day we went in, and sold our wheat and unloaded, and by by noon we was back on the road again and going home. And then the next day we got in home sometime in the afternoon, you see. And it was everything with the rest of them. Well, I went in with them in the fall, in the winter of the year, with sleds. Was sleds and had one horse on it, and they had about 2 or 3 sleds like that. And the fella taking the lead, and the horses, they all followed. Didn't have to be everyone there, one of them on there, you see, going in there. So we went so far, was a place to stay and feed your horses, and then at night we had another place to stay, just like we used to have here in this country.
Were you anywhere near the Trans-Siberian Railroad?
No, they was just putting the railroad through there when we left. They just had it build up a railroad, but it was about a day's drive to the railroad.
Why did they build that railroad?
Well, there was quite a bit of wheat in there. There was a lot of wheat raised in there, in Russia there. We had a wheat crop. Well, Dad lost one crop, I think, all the years he was there. And he was there 13 years. No.
Did you ever see the Tsar?
Huh?
Did you ever see the Tsar, Tsar Nicholas?
No. No.
Did your parents ever talk about him?
No, they never talked about anybody like that. The older people didn't do like we do now. You see, our kids, they found out everything. But them days, there wasn't nothing said about it.
Did you have any idea that there was a revolution coming in Russia?
No. There was no idea whatsoever. Everything was quiet. But so many of the boys, they had to go to the army so long, about 3 years. Then they turned them out, turned them loose, turned them back home again. Well, when the war started, they picked them up first. They had to go first. They knew what they was doing and what they done, so that's the way it was. But I wasn't old enough yet. But by the time the war quit, I was ready to go. They had me checked up already.
In this country?
Yeah, in this country, right here.
Why did your parents decide to come to this country?
Well, like I told you, they had seen a lot in the paper. They got papers from over here, daily papers, and how everything was handled over here, and you don't have to go to war or anything like that, and that's why they came over this way. And a lot of Baptists over here, and the big churches building up and everything else, so they come over here.
What church did you attend in Russia?
In Russia, it was a Lutheran church.
Lutheran church.
Yeah. But my dad, before he left there, he got in with some Baptists, and then he turned to Baptist, and that's what we're at now. Of course, our parents are all gone already, but then they come over here just on account of the churches a lot. And then his brothers was over here, and they liked it. And there wasn't, he would get a job, they got a job, and then there was up in North Milwaukee. Then we had some relation down here in Shattuck. The next year, so I come down here.
Tell me about the trip over. Where did you get on the boat?
Well, we got on the boat in Russia. It was just about a day and a half's drive. It was just a small river, just like the Mississippi. Then we went on it, I think 3 days, something like that. And then we got on a train, and we was on the train about 7 days by the time we got to the ocean.
And where'd you get on the ship at the end?
Well, I don't know what the name of it was, but it was that's a German boat, American.
This is the...
That's the same as we come on.
What is his first word? Is that something America line?
Yeah, the American line.
What is...
Just like Germany. It's supposed to be a German American line.
Okay.
See, it's American line, what it was. That's what we come on.
What is this?
This is the outfit where you carried your papers in. Then Dad left that for me, and I kept it, and I've kept it ever since I've been... He's been gone quite a while, but I kept it, and then now when I heard about that, and I says, I got to hunt that up. I says, I'm going to show it to him.
Yeah.
But as far as the country was at that time, it was just as good as any country or the United States. You could go anywhere you wanted to. You could buy anything you want. You could sell anything you want. And there was no hold-up whatsoever.
Why the revolution?
Huh?
Why the revolution?
That's something I can't figure out, why they started that. Well, Russia and Germany, they got together. You see, they got against one another. They started. And that's where it started. And Germany was going to clean Russia out. But we went in over here, or they'd have never got it done. The Russians, the Germany couldn't do it. It was a big country, had a lot of men and everything, but they wasn't equipped like we was over here, you see.
What kind of ship did you come over on?
Well, that's that American ship.
Okay.
That's the ship we come over on.
Tell me about the trip. Where did you stay? Where did you...
Well, yeah, there was 3 stores. 3 different stores in there.
What did you take with you? What could you pack to take?
Well, just mostly your clothes. That's what you got along, you see.
You left the whole farm, everything
The
there?
whole farm and everything stayed there.
All your
Everything
belongings?
was sold. Horses was sold, cattle was sold. My uncle taking over the farm. Well, he kept it 1 year. Then they taken that away from him, you see. He was in he was in the army, and when he got out, when they quit, well, then he was handing out to people so much stuff, to this people and to them. And then some of them, they didn't like him, and they turned him in, and the first thing you know, they're taking him away.
Huh. Was this during the revolution?
Yeah. And some of them, and some of them told them, and then they come and picked him up and take him to the town where we were hauled our wheat there. That was about a day and a half's drive with the horses. Well, they'd taken him there, and then his wife went in there once, and then was she going to go in there and see him again, and some of them come from there, and they told her, see, no use go seeing him. He's dead. They throw him out in the lot, taking his clothes off him and just let him lay out there. That's the way he died. People don't know what it really is, just like it is our country. We always taking care of our country here, but just like some of the countries are now. But Russia was just as good and clean a country as there ever was.
What happened to it?
Well, they got fighting one another, amongst one another. Japan and Germany. Russia taken some land away from them a few years before. And Russia and Japan wanted it back again. Well, Japan and Russia, they worked together, and then there was another nation or two. They worked together just like we do with our countries over here.
Did your parents ever talk about the Russo-Japanese War? 1903?
No, they never said anything about that. See, they had a war there for the Russians and Germans, but my dad wasn't in there. And still at the same time, it was a good place. I went to town with Dad many times. In the wintertime, fall of the year, load up so many sacks of wheat, take it down there, and he'd have about 3 sleds or something like that. And then I'd get on one of them, on the back one, he'd take the front one, and away we'd go. Didn't make no difference how cold it was, you was dressed for it.
What kind of house did you have in Russia?
We had a house just like we have here, only it was mud house mostly, built like a brick house.
And how'd you make the bricks?
We didn't make no bricks, it was just a wall, and they just real thick, and they just set it up like that, and they just stood up like that.
Just made out of mud?
Just made out of real dry mud, you see. They had to have horses, put straw in them quite a bit, and then stirred it up good. Then we had 2 houses there, and we had barns and everything. Everything was built out of mud.
What kind of roof did it have?
Huh? Roof? Well, they just, some of them had straw on it, and some of it had something else on. Maybe put mud on it, you see, and it wouldn't wash so bad. So that's the way it was there.
Did that house keep you warm? Was it well insulated?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, you had a wall about that thick, you see.
Yeah.
And you had a big stove in there. It was about 6 feet long, about 3 feet wide. And then it was stood up there about, say about 5, 6 feet. In the fall of the year, in the winter time, you take your straw and go in there and fire that up so it get plump. And then you had heat in there all the time. And then you had another stove in there where you cook your stuff on. Had a stove there, had a big kettle, had ovens in there. You heat them ovens up, put your bread in there, and that was it, you see. You didn't have to put in the fire in there. It was hot enough for the bread to bake.
Where'd you start to school?
I started in Rochester School. That's where I got my best school.
How big was the school in Russia?
Well, let's see. I expect there was about 50 kiddos or something like that in that school at that time.
Remember your teacher's name over there?
No, I don't know or remember their names.
Was the school in German or Russian?
In German.
German?
Yeah, but I was just ready to go to a Russian school. You see, so many years you had German school, and then after that you had to learn Russian school.
Where were you going to go to the Russian school?
Well, it'd have been right there. We'd have had a teacher there, a Russian teacher. See, well, that, just like you're here in the United States, if we come in there, some of the German people, they talk German, you know, the kiddos. Well, they'd watch them. I know where I lived out there, where they watched them, see that they wouldn't talk German. Well, they'd go out in the bathroom, right, then they go talk, and then they catch them right, well, then they make them come in and sit down.
Did you have a German teacher or a Russian teacher?
No, it was a German teacher.
German teacher.
She could understand both languages, and she could teach both languages.
How long did you go to the German school?
Oh, let's see. I think I was around 6 years old, and I went to school around 6 or 7, and I went till 12. I had about 6 years school, and I had one of the best schools there ever was. I could read and write and do anything that come along.
How did that school differ from the schools over here?
Well, it was the same thing. You had so much reading to do, and they put your figures up there to figure them out, figure everything out like it should be. And then when they started the Russian school, well, you got your Russian books and everything. But you could learn just like it was here when I come in here. I had always good school, but when I come in here, I had to go and work out. I was too young yet to, all I could have went to school. If I'd have went to school just 2 years in the United States, I'd have went with anybody. Because I know I was in the first grade, and then they'd have put the figures up there on the paper. Well, I could figure all them, if I'd find out what they wanted, I could figure every one of them. It didn't make no difference. Same way with the arithmetic. I was up till 12. So that's where it comes in at it. If I'd have had the school like I should have had, I'd have been all right. But then I worked out, you get around people, like where we was in Texas there, and around them cowboys. Well, you didn't have much chance to learn anything there, you see. And I didn't read it now.
Did you speak Russian?
No, I couldn't speak Russian then. Some of the words I could understand, but not all of them, you see. That because there wasn't no Russian speaker in there.
Okay. How long were you on the boat coming over?
Let's see, we was 9 days and 3 quarters on the boat alone, on the water. That's all we was on the water.
Tell me about the trip.
Well, we started...
Where'd you sleep and all this?
Yeah, well, we started out on the water, and then we got on the train. Then we went to the train. Well, it was 7 days on the train. Then then when we got to the ocean, then they'd taken us off of there, and we stayed there a few days till our ship was ready to go, you see. Till they had a load of us, some coming in all the time.
Did you travel across Russia?
Huh? We traveled clear across Russia.
I mean, because you mentioned 7 days on the train.
Yeah. Well, it was way in the northern part, you see, and this was in the southern part. You see, when we got close to England, they stopped there and they loaded butter there.
Butter?
Yeah. Ship come in from the side, and we was anchored there. The ships come up there, and they loaded butter, and then they went on again.
Where did you get on the ship to cross the ocean?
I think it was well, it was right on Russia, on the ocean. Russia was on the ocean, and that's where we got our ship.
Was it in the Baltic Sea in that area?
Somewhere along in there, but I don't know just exactly. See, kid didn't pay much attention to it, which I should have been better off.
Yeah, Mr. Triberg said they got on the ship at Hamburg, Germany, where they got on.
Well, they was in Germany, you see. Maybe we did get on there, but it says here American.
Yeah. How long did it take to cross from England to Canada?
From England to Canada?
How long did it take to cross the Atlantic?
9 days and 3/4.
And tell me what you did on the boat.
Huh?
What did you do on the boat for those 9 days?
Didn't do nothing up there. Just sat around like I do now. You couldn't do nothing. You could go up on top and go around and look out. But there's only one day, all the time we was on there, where it was rough, where the ship went. Just like that, all the time.
You get seasick?
No, I didn't get seasick. There's a lot of seasick on there. But I didn't. And then after that, why, the rest of the time, why, it looked just like a tank.
Yeah.
Just like...
Were most of the people on there coming to this country?
Most of them come to this country, yeah.
Okay.
All that got on there, well, some of them stopped at Canada, you see. That's where we landed. And then from there, we taken the train and come over here to North Milwaukee.
Great. What part of Canada did you?
It was in the eastern part, Halifax.
Halifax, Nova Scotia?
Yeah, Halifax, Canada, I think it was. Okay. It was in Canada where we got on that's where we got off the ship and got on the boat.
Have to go through customs at Halifax?
Yeah.
Tell me about that. What'd they do?
Well, we stopped, we had to stop at the 9th day. We stopped out on the ocean. And we stopped out on the ocean, and they wouldn't let us in till the next morning because they all had to be examined, see if it was all right. Well, when we got there the next morning, well, every one of them was all right, except my aunt, my grandma, Dad's mother. She was kind of sick, and they thought they'd have to send her back, and we had to fool around there putting her whole day. But she caught cold. She was out that night, you see. It was raining a little bit, and stayed out too much that night, and she got cold. So they checked her, and finally said, well, she can go.
Did your grandmother talk much about Russia?
No, she wasn't much with us. She was mostly with some of her other boys in North Milwaukee.
Yeah.
See, we come down here, and she stayed up there.
Why did you go to North Milwaukee?
I had two uncles there, my dad's brothers.
And then when did you come down to Shattuck?
About a year later.
That 1914?
Yeah, something was wrong there, yeah.
And why'd you come down here?
Well, they had quite a few people here. They was related to him, and they had farms here, and he wanted to get back on the farm, you see. He had to put a good-sized family, and, you know, work wasn't too much. Of course, they all worked at that time, but it wasn't like on the farm, I guess. So we went on the farm here and stayed on the farm here. Well, we stayed on the farm then till I quit. Well, finally he lost mother, and then they married another woman, and I got married, and now I stayed here 1 year in Higgins, Texas, and then I went to St. Joe, Michigan.
Let me back up. What kind of work did your father do in North Milwaukee?
In North Milwaukee? Well, just any kind of work he could get, you see, in shops.
Did your father file on a claim down here?
Down here?
Yeah.
No, he never filed. He bought a place. He never bought a place. He never got a place. He was renting all the time while he was here, you see.
And you had an uncle that was down here?
Yeah, they was in North Milwaukee.
Okay.
And Dad, he come down here. He had some of the relations down here.
Okay, what relation was down here?
Cook was their name.
That KLCH?
Yeah.
And what relation were they to you?
Well, I don't know what I'd say to them because they was related a little bit. But really what they was related, I couldn't say.
Okay. Okay, how would you compare the farming to this area to the farming in Russia?
Well, it was about the same thing. You see, when we come here, we had horses to farm with. And that was the same way there. You plow your ground and then sow it right away.
Mm-hmm. Now, did you live with the Cook family?
Huh?
Did you live with the Cooks?
No, we had our own place.
Okay.
There was their grandpa, my grandpa, what was my dad's dad, they was there in the same place, and then that one of them that got killed in the army. Well, two of the boys was there, and they was both got killed in the army.
What, in World War I?
Yeah, World War I, yeah, that's
Okay.
what they both got.
Which army were they in?
Huh? They was in Russia. You see, the
Russian
Russia,
army.
they had to be with Russia.
Yeah.
And Russia, you know, when Sherman was pretty well prepared. But then still at the same time, I can't, for otherwise, why, there wasn't anything different here than it was in Russia and here. You could go anywhere you wanted to. If you want to go anywhere, well, you could go and you could do what you want. Go to church, you was allowed to go there, and you could go to school. But the main thing was first the German, and then the English, then the Russian. Then you had to get the Russian language and speak Russian.
Did you ever attend the Russian Orthodox Church?
No. Only church I attended besides ours was my dad used to have Catholic men and a woman both. After he got up a little higher, he had a lady and a man working for us all the time. And I'd go over where they lived. It was about, maybe 6 or 8 miles to another town. I'd go over there with them, stay all night, and the next day we'd come back home again.
That was in Russia?
That was in Russia, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so...
Do you have any other stories of Russia that you can remember?
No. As far as I know now, just like a lot of people say, well, how was it in Russia? Well, it's just like I told you. You could go anywhere you wanted to. You could do anything. Just like it is here. You would go to a different town. You gather your wheat, haul it to town, and sell it. And it'd be the same thing just like it was here. That was no difference whatsoever. Only I know that the First World War, when we was in there, it got kind of rough a little bit, but then, you know, that's the way it was all over. But as far as I know, Russia was just, well, I heard one guy say something about Russia being so bad. Well, he wasn't over there. And I caught him at it. I says, was you over in Russia? No, people say it that way. As well as I was about 13 years old when we come over here. And I says, I didn't see no difference in it, in Russia and in the United States.
What were your feelings when the revolution broke out?
Well, we didn't know what would happen before it, because I was already lined up for the army. They had me already down. Of course, I wouldn't have had to win. All I'd have had to do is to tell them to give me my citizen paper and my dad. And you know, it didn't take 24 hours to get your papers.
It didn't. When did you become a citizen?
I become a citizen in Shattuck.
What year?
In 36.
36.
Yeah. I was married then already. My wife, she was a citizen. She was born over here.
But they were going to draft you even though you weren't a citizen?
Yeah, I wouldn't have had to go. All I had to do is just tell him. I know one boy over there, his dad didn't have the papers, and he was supposed to go. Well, he says, I'm not going. I don't have to go. I'm not no citizen. But he says, you give me my papers and my dad's papers, and you can go. And he did. That's what they did. And it didn't take very long, because to get my citizenship, it taken 2 years. That only taken 24 hours. Yeah. See the difference? Because they needed the.
When you heard that they had shot the Tsar, what did you think?
Well, see, we were kind of young. We didn't pay so much attention to it like we do now. That is, the young people, the kiddos, they know putting their everything, after they're about 10, 12 years old, they know putting everything's going on here. Because the folks will tell them. Well, it was altogether different in that country. The kiddos didn't find too much out. Till we got ready to go, well, all right, we'll go. So they they started in the fall of the year, and they didn't get all their wheat trashed. We didn't get all of ours trashed. Well, we trashed it in the spring then with the horses. And one of our relations there, we come in together, and he was in here once before, and he went back out, and he stayed out there 10 years. Then he come back in again, or 12 years. That's the way he come. Then he come back in here again, and he had a lot of wheat. He was pretty well to do. He had a few boys. One of the boys was old as I am, and they had 2 or 3 boys. They was older than I was. And they all come back in here again, and they got quite a bit of land. And anything they wanted, all they had to do was ask for it, and they'd help them get it. Because they knew they could get their money out of them. They wouldn't have to be afraid. So that's the way that was. To tell you the truth, I like it. Only there's some of the countries now we should not have much to do with. We're losing too many of our men, which we shouldn't lose.
Yeah. How many years did you attend school in this country?
Me? I only one winter.
One winter.
One winter.
Were you living around here?
No, we was in Green Bay, Wisconsin.
Okay.
See, it was in North Milwaukee, and they was looking for people to work their sugar beets. Well, my dad taking a job like that, so many acres of sugar beets. And then we went to Green Bay, Wisconsin, and that's where I started the school.
When did you move to Green Bay?
It was in the fall and in the spring of the year.
What year?
I was in 14.
Okay, you moved from Shattuck?
No, from North Milwaukee.
Oh, okay, North Milwaukee to Green Bay.
Green Bay, yeah.
And then how long did you work in that?
Then we was in there about a year.
Then you came down?
Then we came down here.
Okay.
That's the way it was.
Did people show any resentment to you during the First World War because you were German?
Well, they didn't do so much here. Well, here Shattuck was one of the worst towns around.
What they do? What did the people in Shattuck do?
They wouldn't let them come in. They didn't want to trade with them or nothing, to tell you the truth. Higgins was a nice town. Everybody went to Higgins to do their trading. And then people up there, the storekeepers, they said, just come on up here, talk anything you want. It ain't going to hurt us. They can't do nothing to you because you're a German people. And here in Shattuck, they went under before they got, so they could turn loose again. You see, all the wheat they raised around here, that all went to Higgins. And they didn't get none here, and people didn't come and buy nothing.
How come Shattuck had that?
I don't know. There was some of them guys, they was even Germans, and they hated them because they was in here. And they were just the same Germans as they was, same nationality.
Yeah, I heard that some of the Germans were tarred and feathered.
Yeah, there was.
Why'd they do that?
I don't know, because they didn't believe in that. They didn't want them to stay in the United States. That's where a lot of trouble started, right here at Shattuck. They was going to tar and feather some of them.
Did you see anyone tarred?
No, I never seen any of it. But that's where it started. But then that war lasted quite a while, you know, till 1918.
What did you do on Armistice Day?
Well, I don't know, just about like we always used to do. I worked and try to take care of the country and do whatever they wanted you to do here, just like any place else. Just like if you go in another country, well, you got to kind of go with their laws they have here.
Okay. November 11th, 1918. The war ended.
Yeah, that ended there, yeah. That,
Did you have a big celebration that day?
yeah, they had lots of it. Everything was going like everything, all over town.
What did you do that day?
Well, I don't think I'd done much of anything because I was too young. But then I know they had a lot of roundup when they heard that World War I, that was World War I come to an end. That was right. They was glad to see it.
And where was the farm that you were working down here?
Huh?
Where was the farm that you were renting down here?
Oh, down here I worked for guys in Texas till I was 24 years.
What part of Texas?
Around down by Canadian and Higgins, north of Higgins and north of Canadian.
Is Higgins in Texas?
Yeah. Higgins is in Texas. No, Higgins, I mean Glacier.
Glacier.
Glacier and Canadian. Yeah. Yeah, they're in Texas.
And what did you do over there?
I was on the farm, farming just like I did when I was at home.
What'd you do?
The horses plowing. And that they had quite a few cattle. So there wasn't too much farming to do. It was mostly taking care of cattle.
What kind of cattle did you have?
They have the same thing as they had here.
What, Herefords?
White-faced, yeah, Herefords, yeah. Good cattle.
When did they first bring their Herefords in this country?
I don't remember when they brought them in here, but they was here when we come here.
Okay. Still have the Longhorns here?
I see a lot of longhorns, and a lot of people got the no horns at all. You see, they bred them up. Just like you take a male, male with horns on and breed the cow to it, and that calf won't have no horns. And there's a lot of them done that. A lot of them bought, taken the black wool and bred the cows to it, and they turned out just like that calf was. No horns, but still you still had the same work with them as you did with the others. You had to take care of them. And as far as I know, I can't say nothing against our nation. There was things when it happened, I didn't like it, but then it was that way all over. But
when did you return to Oklahoma?
we turned into Oklahoma in 1914.
No, when you from Texas.
Oh, from Texas?
Yeah.
Well, see, my folks lived in here, and they lived in Texas, and then I went to work for Tex people. Then about 3 years later, then they come back here again.
Okay.
Well, then I come back here again, and then from here, I stayed around here about a year or two. I think I was 21 years old, 22, 23. Then I went to Michigan. I had a sister up there, and they wrote us. And then me and my brother went up to Michigan. That was in 23.
Why'd you go to Michigan? Because just your sister was up there? Or?
Well, it was shop work, and I didn't care too much about farming. And so
Where'd you work in Michigan?
In shops.
Where at?
At St. Joe, Michigan. In the foundry.
What'd you do in the foundry?
I was grinding. Grind the iron. You see there was knobs on there where the water iron went in. You had to grind that off, and then they go somewhere else. Then they go into a mill, and then they have a lot of gravel in there that clean all that stuff off of there, what was on that. See, it was packed in ashes.
What were you making?
For any kind of car. Wishbones, wheels, any kind of stuff like that, you see. And then we left. Then I stayed up there, and then I come back down here in the spring. Then I was going to go back up again. And then I got married, and then the next year, me and my wife went up there, and we was up there 2 years. Up in there 3 years, and then we come back down here. We stayed a year here again, and I wish I would have never stayed. Then we went back up again, and then 1930 we come back down here to put on the wheat.
Yeah.
Then,
Did the Depression bring you back down
yeah.
here?
Well, it didn't bring me. I had my job up there. I had a good job up there.
How come you quit?
My wife, she was from down here and she wanted to come down here.
Where'd you meet your wife?
I met her right here in Shattuck. She was born here.
What's her name?
Victoria Schaefer. Schoenhals was her first name.
What was her maiden name?
Victoria.
And what was her,
Schoenhals.
how you spell that?
Schoenhals.
And you were married in what year?
24, October the 10th. I was 24 years old.
You just had your 60th wedding anniversary, didn't you?
Huh?
You just had your 60th anniversary?
Yeah. We just had here a while back, we had our 60th anniversary.
Yep. Tell me about the Depression and the dust storms down here.
Well, I tell you, people got along all right. They got along better now than they do now. Everybody helped everybody out. If they had a man had something to do, they'd go and help him. If he was building a house, they helped him. If he was building a barn, they went and helped him. Well, this is all past nowadays. They won't help anybody anymore. If you help anybody, they have to pay you for it. But in them days when we was here, why, it was easy. If anybody built a barn or something like that, you'd go and help them a day or two. And if you had something to do, they'd come and do the same thing, you see. But then we was on the farm in 30 when they come down here. And then in 23, we bought a place.
Where?
Right here in Shattuck, south of Shattuck here.
How big was that place? How many acres?
320, half a section.
What'd you raise on that place?
Well, we raised corn, raised milo, wheat, capricorn, all kinds of grain, oats.
When did you see your first thrashing mill? When did you see your first thrashing machine?
The first one I seen in Russia in 1913.
1913.
Yeah. And that was worked by horses. Well, when we come over here, they had steam engines, some of them, and gas engine. But they was kind of small, too big a machine. Then I was about 19, 20 years old, and I worked for a fellow out at Tampa, Texas. Worked for him, and he asked me, I told him, he says, "Are you know anything about a machine?" I says, "I can run a machine or an engine, either one." He said, "That's the guy we want."
What was his name in Pampa?
I don't know what the man's was. They come in from Kansas, had a big Rumley outfit. That is a Rumley steamer, Rumley gas engine and a Rumley separator. And when we go out in the morning, it was daylight, and before the sun was down, we was back in the shed, and we had over 3,000 bushel of wheat thrashed. He had 8 men on there, 4 to the side. And when they pulled in between the stack, it wasn't no time. That stack was going. It was 36 or 42-inch machine to sell it that wide.
How big were those stacks?
Huh?
How big were the stacks?
Well, the stacks was pretty good size. Some of them was pretty long, about as long as from across this building here, and then there was pretty wide. And they put a lot of wheat, and then they had a long extension carrier on there. It reached way out there.
How does that thrasher work?
Huh?
How do you operate a thrasher? What does it do?
Well, it thrashed the machine just like a combine does. See, you had a steam engine, or if you had a gas, you had a gas engine on there, and the big belt, and that belt set out there about clear out to the street, you see, that far away.
How did it remove the wheat from the kernel, from the husk?
Well, they had a cylinder in there, concaves. See, they had concaves in there. Now they got all rasps in there to knock it out, you see. It don't crack as much wheat. But when we got, it was all, it was concaves. And the fellow I worked for then, he says, well, he says, we got a machine up there, it's got to have so many teeth, and it's got to take all them out and put in new ones. And I says, it'll take a couple of days or better. He says, put them in so they'll stay. I says, all right. So I went out there, and I went out. I got my hammer, loosened them up, taking the taps off of it, and when it was loose, I'd hit it, take it out, got them all out, and then put new ones in there. And gets a lot of fellas, he had fellas who would put them in on maybe the first day or two. They'd come out and just tear everything up.
Now you said that thrasher was how wide?
36 inches.
And what part of the thrasher is that?
That's the front end, where your wheat goes in.
Do you put the wheat in that end?
Yeah, in that end. You see, and then it goes out the back. And then by the time it gets to the back, it's got an elevator that goes up on top, and some of them would run right out in the wagon.
Okay, and then you loaded the wheat in the wagon?
Yeah, loaded the wheat in the wagon.
And that goes to the elevator?
That went to the elevator and went home. 90% of the wheat went home in the granary. See, they didn't haul much wheat to town.
Was this here, or was this in Russia?
Yeah, that, right here.
Yeah. Okay.
And the same way it was in Russia.
Okay.
Everything went in the granary.
Who owned the elevator here in Shattuck?
Engel Brothers. They're not in it anymore.
They're not?
No. No, some other outfit bought them out, and they're gone. Well, all the older fellas, they all passed away, and then there was just their son-in-law.
Is that elevator still here?
Yeah, it's still here. No, it was, they built a big elevator there. There's a big tank. The in it outfit bought it now. Bought the whole thing, everything they had. But there was about 3 or 4 different elevators here in this town at that time. Yeah. And they come out there, and each one out, they all try to buy their wheat, and they give a cent more, or maybe 2 cents more, and the next guy give a little bit more. Guy that paid the most for it, well, then it went. Now they got one price, and that's all.
Tell me about the dust storms.
Well, the dust storms, it was pretty bad. We didn't raise much wheat. And it wasn't so bad here. It was pretty bad here, but mostly it was in Texas, Delaware, Texas. That country was nothing but flat. Everything was gone. People went out there 2 or 3 years before that, and oh, the crops they raised, and boy, they getting rich. Guys just about my age. And their dad was with them, they helped them out, and they went out there. And there's only one man stayed out there. The rest of them left.
Where'd they go?
Well, they come back here again. Got them some land in different places.
What did a dust storm look like?
Well, I tell you, it's pretty bad sometimes, but whenever a dust storm, there's just everything dark. Birds can't fly, and that's a lot of difference in that. I seen a lot of that, and I went through a lot of that. Went through in good times, and I went through in bad times. Just like it is now. Now they're going to ruin the farmers.
I was going to ask you, did you want to leave Russia?
Huh? Well, it didn't make no difference to me. The folks that wanted to go, so we just went with them.
So it didn't matter to you?
Huh? It didn't make no difference to me.
What did you do on the day that you received your citizenship?
I was down in Elk City, Oklahoma. You see, they started here at Ornette, and they couldn't get it done.
How come they couldn't get it done?
Well, they didn't have sense enough. When I went in there to get my papers, why, they didn't know where to start. But I had a book already where it told me what I had to do and what I had to come up with. And they asked me 2 questions.
What were they?
Where I was born and where I lived. And that's all. But I had to do a lot of study, you know. If they'd ask me anything else, well, then that'd be it.
What kind of oath did you have to take?
Huh?
You had to take an oath?
No, they would come in there. There was a bunch of them in there. There were several of them, and then you go in, they take you in the room where the judges was, and they're all lawyers and everything. They'd ask you this question, they'd ask you that question. All right, if you could answer it, that was it. They'd give you your papers.
Did the judge talk to you at all?
No, they didn't talk much to you. They asked, oh, I like it here and this and that, and I told them I liked it. That's why I'm here yet. But it's a problem. That's the same way it was in Russia. I don't know how there was in Russia there about to come and be a citizen there, but there was a lot of difference in here than there was out there. Of course, years ago when the people first come in here, you see one of them sign his papers for him because he was a citizen already.
What did you think of Adolf Hitler?
Well, I don't know. I didn't have too much to do. Some things maybe was all right. And some of them, I guess, wasn't all right, you see. That's where it comes in at. They had a good country, and they had a good army there. In some way or other, they want to go in there and run him out. Well, he was just enough stuff he had that they couldn't run him out. Had too many arms trained and they went backwards till we got in there. When we got in there, then they just couldn't hold it. There was just not enough power there.
What did you do during the war, World War II?
What did I do?
Yeah.
I was on the farm.
Did you do any work to support the war effort?
Afterward?
No.
No.
Like the bond drives or anything?
No. See, I was working on the farm.
Mm-hmm. Was there any hatred toward the Germans in that war, in World War II?
Oh yeah, World War II. No, I don't think there was anything there. Not that I remember.
Not like World War I?
But World War I was bad.
Yeah.
That was bad.
Did they do anything to you personally?
No.
In World War I?
No, they didn't do nothing to us. We was there, we lived there in the country, and we got out. When the wheat we raised, we taken it to town, sold it, got our money for it, and that was it.
Here in Shattuck?
No, not at Shattuck. That was when we, let's see, we lived out there by a Canadian.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. See, and then when they got a farm here, and then right by us there was an elevator, Goodwin.
Mm-hmm.
That's where we hauled our wheat.
Yeah.
It was only about a mile and a half, something like that.
What was your reaction when the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor?
I didn't know what to say, but I couldn't say nothing about it because some of them fellas wasn't citizens, so they had to watch out, see what they say. See, I wasn't no citizen then yet.
Well, that was in 41.
Yeah, I was citizen then.
Yeah.
But they didn't say, oh, when they bombed it, yeah, when the Japanese bombed it, yeah. Yeah, I didn't like that, but that's where they come after me. See, they asked me what I could do and what my work was, and I told them I'm a farmer, but I wasn't North Milwaukee, and I was punch press operator, or electric welder, or settling car. See, and that's the ones they wanted, and shops up there. Of course, when it first started, there was none but men in there, but then after the war, after it started, and finally they went to hiring women. And that's the same way it was here. And there was some of the guys come around. Me and another guy, he was a boiler maker. He always run a steam engine, putting in flues, and I could do that too. Mm-hmm. And they said, they're going to get you two guys just before it's over with. They're going to send you out of here.
Did they?
No, they didn't. No, they didn't send us out. We stayed here until to the...
What have you done since then?
Since then, I've been a farmer. Mm-hmm. I farmed till I was in 74 when I quit.
Why'd you quit?
Well, just me and my wife and my daughter, and I says, why should we farm longer? I says, we got a good start and everything. I says, ain't no use.
How many kids did you have?
We used to have two of them. One of them passed away. He was 21 years old, the boy. And the daughter, she lives at Ponca City. Her husband, he works for Conoco. He's boss Conoco. He started out when he was working for Conoco when they got married, and he was hauling water where they going across the country, and there was in every state of the Union. And so all at once he was in Ponca City. And then the fella from a firm down Paul's Valley down there, Winter, there's a fella down there, I knew him, and he says, send him down here, I think he'll make a good man. Of course he didn't have no college, but he had a good school. So he went down there, and I think he was down there hardly a year. And they sent him, well, he was boss already in the seismic craft, you see, where they go from one place to another.
Yeah.
They used to drill, but now they had an outfit, they got electric.
Right.
Then they come work better.
Right. Do you ever think back on Russia?
No, I don't have nothing to me anymore. I'm out of there, and I got a good life. So,
did you leave any besides your aunt and uncle that stayed there?
oh yeah, that was.
Did you leave any other family
Yeah.
members there?
Yeah.
What happened to them?
My uncles. Well, I don't know what happened. Some of them I didn't even hear. They were still alive. I had an aunt. She went. Niece. She went over there She was over there twice in Russia, but she could never go there where we lived.
How come?
They wouldn't let her go there. It wasn't fixed for it. Just so close, and then all right. And then a year or two later, she went back over there again. Then she got closer, but you couldn't go there yet where they lived. But they said that place is a big city, electric lights and everything else. That many people moved in there in about 1 year or two. And that was a good country. It was raised a lot of wheat there.
Yeah.
And a lot of snow there too. I was just a kid. I had a sled, and I'd get up on top of the house. Down I'd go. It snows that high. Morning you had to get up and get out and scoop snow so you could get light in the window. Because everything filled up.
Well, Mr. Schaefer, I think we had a good interview.
Well, I think I told you about all I know and the way things was in Russia. Why, it's just like it was here. Only it's different now. A lot different. You see, we didn't have to go same way in Russia. We farmed our land, and here it was that way too, and then all at once, now we're losing so many farmers because they don't get nothing for their work, and they're buying too big of machines. I never farmed for myself with horses. I had a tractor. I farmed with it. And I stayed on the farm. I went in on 24 and went out on, 43, 44. Well, I was, we lived 20 years out here in this other place. 40 years. We lived 40 years in there. And then when 1934, 36. Well, we've been in here just a year now.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you.
Yeah.